From the trailers, the Norwegian Netflix series Ragnarok looked to be a mythological action-adventure with maybe a touch of Chronicle thrown in. Is that what we get? So a family moves back to a very small Norwegian town, and the oldest son begins to experience some physical changes. No, not puberty. He also encounters some environmental issues that could endanger all of the townspeople. Now, this is a show with a lot of teen angst. It focuses mainly on a group of high school students. We have Magne and Loritz, who are the brothers, Magne being the oldest. We also have Fjord and Saxa, who are the children of the owner of the town's main industry. Then we also get Gry, I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce her name, it's Gry, and Isolde, who also have some interest in this group as well, and they have some emotional ties to the other characters. Admittedly, I'm not well versed or even terribly familiar with Norse mythology. I mean, I know there's Thor, he's the son of Odin, and he also has a brother named Loki. I also know that there are gods and giants, and the giants in this are not actually the large hulking creatures that we typically associate with the word giant, but they're just another race. And the gods and the giants battle it out. Now, there are a ton of parallels between the Norse mythology and the characters in Ragnarok. It doesn't start out as blatant, but it really does become very overt towards the end. It's important also to know where the title of the series comes from and how it fits in. Ragnarok is a series of events which ultimately leads to a massive battle with a ton of deaths. And then that leads to the destruction of the world. Now, an entry in Wikipedia, yeah, I know I'm not usually using that as a source of anything reliable, but in this instance, it makes sense just for the show, is that also along with Ragnarok, the event of Ragnarok, it ends with the earth being submersed in water. I mention this because the show has a large environmental slant to it. The majority of the story arc really does focus on environmental issues. There's also a lot of talking and planning and scheming, and a lot of it very, very vague, that ends up taking up the majority of the time of each episode. Now, if you're into teen angst, there's plenty of that here. I mean, we have relationships and drama and grades and the pressure to fit in and friendships, all of that. I mean, there is plenty to go around if you're into the whole teen angst angle. I do like a few of the characters a lot. Magna is the lead in this, and he's brooding and he's kind of sulking. But in this instance, for his character, it makes a lot of sense, and he does it really well, and I empathize with him. I mean, I can feel for him, and you really are drawn into him as a character. And his brother, Loritz, is terribly annoying. I mean, he is not a nice guy at all. You don't like him. You don't want to root for him. He is scheming, and he is conniving. But when you realize how his character fits into the story, it makes absolute sense. And so I end up liking him for that. I don't like him as a person. I don't like him as a character in that, but I like his performance and I like what he does. Now, from the trailer, I really thought there was going to be a lot more action in this. I mean, we see some lightning bolts and some, raised arms and some, it looks like there's a lot of fights to it and everything else. We don't really get much of that. I mean, there is a little bit of action, but the series relies more on the drama and that whole relationship, teen angst, just stressful type of growing up situation. That's what they rely on for the majority of the story. And in this series, all of that part of it, it begins to hamper the pace just a little bit. It just felt like there was too much of the talking and the planning without them actually putting anything into action and moving forward with these plans. Now, it is only 6 episodes. They're each about 45 minutes, so it's a really quick watch. Now, the scenery in this is beautiful. I mean, the shots are well done. I mean, it's beautiful just to look at as a series. I mean, you're just like, wow. And it doesn't hurt that the locale is spectacular. I mean, it is just, there's glaciers and flowing water, and it truly is beautiful. But unfortunately, it's all just a bit lackluster because of the story execution. Ragnarok is supposed to be this giant battle. I mean, something that brings about the end. So I picture in my mind something epic, right? The climax comes and goes, and it doesn't feel as big as the drama leading up to it, purported it to be. Like, it just felt like it should have been a lot more based on the scheming and the planning and all of the talking and everything that was going on. And even some of the events that we get to see and some of the action building and then bits of the story and the mythology that's woven in, it feels like we should be getting something much, much bigger than what we actually do get. Now, I do like that there seems to be room for season 2, but I didn't leave this one with such an anticipation, with such a drive to find out when it's going to be. I cannot wait, on the edge of my seat. Oh my gosh, I need season 2 right now. It ends and I'm just like, yeah, well, okay, maybe there'll be a season 2. We'll see. For me personally, the least interesting thing about the entire series was the whole environmental angle. I just didn't care that much. I understand why it's in there. I understand where it's leading as the story. And it takes up a lot of the story, of the driving focus, because it's always there pushing towards this final thing. But I just, it didn't grab me as I think that they intended it to. But luckily, I was able to connect with a few of the characters, and that was what drew me in and kept me engaged. Then there was that little driving force within me to learn more about the Norse mythology. I just wanted to know. I wanted to know how it fit in. Did it fit in with the show? And what are they going to reveal as it goes along? There's sex, nudity, profanity, and violence. I give Ragnarok 2.5 out of 5 couches. So are you a fan of mythology? What's your favorite? I don't even know if that's like proper grammar in the way to ask it, but do you have a favorite, like maybe genre, origin? Is that the right term for mythology? Anyway, let me know in the comments below if you have a favorite, who's a favorite character, or maybe a story from that. I don't know. I'd love to know. It'll educate me a little bit more on this. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.